Till June 2021, Unilever Indonesia absorbed 350 billion rupiah capital expenditure. Hello, good evening. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of information from business, economic, and capital market sectors. And as the pandemic is still ongoing, we will provide you the latest COVID-19 information. Please stay safe by taking some simple precautions such as physical distancing, wearing face mask, avoiding crowds, cleaning your hands, and having less mobility. With me, Wicky Adrian, this is Market Headlines. The government and the House of Representatives agreed to revise up the lower point of the 2022 economic growth target to 5.2% from the previous target of 5%.
In a working meeting with the House of Representatives, the Minister of Finance Sri Mulyani ensured to raise the lower limit of Indonesia's economic growth target next year from 5% to 5.2% in the basic assumptions of the 2022 macroeconomy. Although the lower limit was revised, the Minister of Finance ensured that this was in line with the previous speech by President Joko Widodo, so that economic growth next year is targeted at 5.2% to 5.5%.
Ketidakpastian, kita tentu akan melihat faktor-faktor yang menyumbangkan pertumbuhan ekonomi baik dari sisi demand maupun supply, Pak. Dari demand, tadi disampaikan oleh hampir termasuk berbagai pembicara tadi mengenai pentingnya konsumsi rumah tangga. Tadi dari seluruh fraksi hampir menyebutkannya seperti itu. Nah, kalau policy mengenai meningkatkan konsumsi rumah tangga, kalau kita lihat dampaknya tadi yang disampaikan oleh BPS, COVID ini mempengaruhi terutama untuk desil 5 ke bawah, maka APBN dari sisi bansos memang ditujukan untuk mereka yang ada di dalam desil terbawah itu.
Sri Mulyani added to pursue this target, the government did a number of things such as strengthening the handling of the health sector, optimizing spending on ministries and institutions, maintaining people's purchasing power, strengthening and sharpening programs for the recovery of MSMEs and business. From Jakarta, Ade Firmansyah for IDX Channel.
Purchasing Managers Index for Indonesia's manufacturing sector, which improved to 43.7, is still in the construction zone. Core Indonesia predicts PMI in September will continue to contract and will improve in line with easing mobility and improving consumption trends.
Core Indonesia economist Muhammad Faisal said that the Purchasing Managers Index or PMI manufacturing in August, which was at 43.7, had improved due to the easing of PPKM compared to the previous months. However, PMI below 50 is still in the contraction zone. Faisal said the PMI contractions will still occur in September and will not recover because the PPKM is still ongoing, which will have an impact in economic pressures and trends in public consumption. However, Faisal said some manufacturing sector will still grow positively, such as food products.
Kita bisa melihat bahwa ini masih dalam level kontraksi dan saya rasa di bulan September ini ya dan juga bulan-bulan ke depan ya sepanjang tidak terjadi kenaikan kembali kasus pandemi, saya rasa dari sisi mobilitas itu akan terus dilonggarkan ya sehingga ini akan berdampak kepada pengurangan beban atau tekanan terhadap industri manufaktur dan indeks purchasing managersnya juga nanti akan sedikit demi sedikit itu akan membaik ya ke arah ekspansi ya walaupun mungkin tidak dalam waktu 1 atau 2 bulan ini ya.
Faisal added that the PMI improvement in the manufacturing sector will occur in line with the decline in COVID-19 cases, which will directly have an impact on easing people mobility. According to him, the easing of mobility will improve the trends of people's consumptions of manufactured products. From Jakarta, Rizka, IDX Channel.
The Central Statistics Agency recorded that the number of foreign tourist visits to Indonesia in July 2021 fell by 10.77% on an annual basis to only 138.97 thousand visits. The number of tourist visits is lower than the same period in 2020. However, when compared to June 2021, the number of foreign tourist visits in July rose slightly by 1.25%. BPS stated that the foreign tourists using air transportation were 7.18 thousand visits, up 76.33% year-on-year, where Soekarno-Hatta Airport was recorded as the airport with the highest increase in foreign tourist arrival, which was 75.25%. Meanwhile, tourists who use sea transportation modes are 38.82 thousand visits, and land transportation modes are 92.97 thousand visits.
Secara man-to-man untuk wisatawan kita ini meningkat 1,25%. Ini relatif tidak begitu besar, namun secara year on year kalau kita bandingkan dengan tahun sebelumnya ini mengalami penurunan 10,77%.
To global update, Taiwan received its first batch of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines Thursday after a prolonged purchasing process that gave rise to a political blame game in China or with China. Meanwhile, Amazon is looking to hire 55,000 staff globally for corporate jobs and roles in robotics, research and engineering. More stories on today's International Minute.
Moderna has said that some batches of its COVID-19 vaccine sent to Japan were contaminated with stainless steel particles, but the company did not expect it posed an undue risk to patient safety. Japan's health ministry said on Wednesday, based on information from the company's investigation, that it did not believe the particles of stainless steel pose any additional health risk. Taiwan received its first batch of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines Thursday after a prolonged purchasing process that gave rise to a political blame game with China. Taiwan had been unable to buy the vaccine itself directly from BioNTech, the German company that had partnered with US-based Pfizer to develop the mRNA vaccine. Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen earlier accused China of blocking Taiwan from getting the Pfizer vaccine through BioNTech. The OPEC oil producers cartel and allied non-member countries led by Russia signed off Wednesday on gradually increasing production as the global economy and demand for fuel continue to recover from the worst of the coronavirus pandemic. The group fended off pressure from the US to move faster in restoring production cuts made during the pandemic and potentially ease costs at the pump for American drivers. Amazon is looking to hire 55,000 staff globally for corporate jobs and roles in robotics, research and engineering. About 40,000 jobs will be in the US, with 2,500 in the UK and the remainder mostly in India, Germany and Japan. Chief Executive Andy Jassy said Amazon needed more staff to keep pace with expansion of its retail, cloud computing and advertising arms. IDX Channel reports.
Market headlines will be roused back after the break. Stay tuned.
Awali hari Anda dengan beragam informasi bisnis terkini yang kami kemas dalam berita teraktual dan berkualitas. Power Breakfast, informasi terkini seputar ekonomi, bisnis, pasar modal, dan industri kreatif yang dikemas secara ringan. News Screen menyajikan informasi ekonomi, bisnis, dan keuangan. Market Headline, menayangkan berita ekonomi dan bisnis dalam bahasa Inggris. Saksikan program-program berita ekonomi dan bisnis terkini langsung dari sumbernya, live hanya di IDX Channel. Your Trustworthy Economic, Business, and Capital Market Channel.
Bagaimana tanggapan dari pengusaha dengan angka ini?
Tentu membuat kita harus lebih berhati-hati.
Langkah apa yang tepat?
Jadi kita harus bisa menunjukkan kepada masyarakat bahwa vaksinasi itu penting.
Aku akan tunjukkan ke kalian semua, aku nggak perlu membalas, tapi you see me, let's see, you see me, let's see, you can see me soon, what I'm doing.
Nah, sejauh ini kritikan terpedas yang pernah diterima apa, Kak?
Kayak gini, aku pernah gini, narimu jelek, gak bagus, apa sih, kamu jadi penari kayak begitu, aku udah pernah yang kayak gitu.
Biden mengatakan Amerika Serikat akan membagikan setidaknya 20 juta dosis vaksin COVID-19 resmi Amerika Serikat.
Apakah ini lagi-lagi akan menjadi sentimen yang cukup positif atau justru sepertinya bisa jadi tidak sesignifikan sebelumnya?
Menurut saya sih kalau dilihat cerminan pasar beberapa hari terakhir sih nggak ada efeknya.
Indeks harga saham gabungan ditutup di level 5.833.860 dan ini merupakan level terendah dalam beberapa bulan terakhir.
The Central Statistic Agency, or BPS, recorded inflation in August 2021 at 0.03%. This figure is lower compared to the previous month, which reached 7 or 0.8 or 0.08%.
The Central Statistic Agency, or BPS, noted that in August 2021, there was an inflation of 0.03%. Meanwhile, the inflation rate in calendar year was 0.84% and year-on-year was 1.59%. BPS Deputy for Distribution Statistics and Services, Setianto, said inflation of 0.03% in August 2021 was due to several commodities experiencing price increases. He explained that school fees contributed to inflation because last month was the new school year. The education group recorded inflation of 1.2% with a share of 0.07% to last month's inflation.
Di bulan Agustus ini lanjut, inflasi kita 0,03%. Jadi inflasi sebesar 0,03% ini tidak lain karena beberapa komoditas yang mengalami peningkatan. Di antaranya adalah minyak goreng, kemudian di bulan Agustus ini juga merupakan tahun ajaran baru, sehingga uang sekolah SD, SMP maupun uang kuliah di perguruan tinggi juga mengalami peningkatan.
Of the 90 cities monitored, 34 cities experienced inflations and 56 cities experienced deflations. In detail, the highest inflation fell in the Kendari area of 0.62% and the lowest in Tanjung area with a value of 0.01%. From Jakarta, Rajo Patmo for IDX Channel.
The inflation rate in August decreased from July 2021, which was 0.08%, but still higher than the previous year, which experienced a deflation of 0.5%. However, how exactly is Indonesia's inflation record throughout this year? Let's see the data in the following graphic. This is Indonesia's 2021 Consumer Price Index. The data was quite fluctuative, but in May, it was on the level of 0.32%. And in June, it was decreased significantly to 0.16 or minus 0.16. and the number was increased to the level of 0.08%, and in August, 0.03%. This decline in August inflation has been predicted, among others, by the chief economist of Bank Permata, Joshua Pardede, where the slowdown in monthly inflation is estimated to be driven by a decline in prices for volatile goods components caused by the decline in most food commodity prices. He previously also predicted a limited increase in core inflation, which would be in line with the loosening of the PPKM and followed by a period of payment of education fees. Meanwhile, Bank Danamon's chief economist Wisnu Wardana, in his estimate, stated that demand in August 2021 will improve because people's mobility is gradually recovering, along with the relaxation of activity restrictions. So are the economist's estimates really reflected in the inflation contributor data? Let's check it through the next graphic. This is August 2021 inflation contributors. The highest one is education, 0.07%. Meantime, for health, housing, water, electricity, and domestic fuel, and of course food and beverage and profession restaurants, as much as 0.01%. We compiled the data from Central Statistic Agency. The contributors to inflation were divided into various categories of expenditure, or can be called consumption. Head of the Central Statistic Agency, Margo Yuwono, said that the upper middle group had relatively slow consumption growth compared to the previous period, in early pandemic period, where he said the upper middle class held back spending. He said that caution is needed to pay attention to household consumption, considering that household consumption is one of the driving forces of economic growth. So it is necessary to pay attention on how to encourage the spending of the middle to upper class, especially as we know that inflation is closely related to the level of consumption and people's purchasing power. And we're going to go to another information regarding inflation. Previously, President Joko Widodo asked all government officials to remain vigilant on low inflation rate, which is synonymous with declining people's purchasing power. While in the other side, Bank of Indonesia sees that inflation rate in 2021 will remain below the target, and it is expected to increase in 2022 in line with improving domestic demand.
Inflation, which has been recorded at a low annual rate of this year, is not something to be proud of. In the 2021 National Coordination Meeting for Inflation Control, President Joko Widodo said that low inflation doesn't necessarily indicate good economic conditions. This could be a sign that people's purchasing power is still weak. The President explained that the inflation rate, which is far below the 2021 target of 3%, further shows the lack of demand due to the COVID-19 pandemic, so that indications of a decline in people purchasing power must be anticipated.
Tingkat inflasi yang terkendali di angka 1,52% year on year. Angka inflasi itu jauh di bawah target inflasi 2021, yaitu 3%. Tetapi kita juga tahu bahwa inflasi yang rendah juga bisa bukan hal yang menggembirakan, karena bisa saja ini mengindikasikan turunnya daya beli masyarakat akibat pembatasan aktivitas dan mobilitas.
Meantime, Bank Indonesia estimates that this year's inflation rate will remain low. However, next year the central bank estimates that inflation will increase in line with expectations of a recovery in the economy. This has prompted Bank Indonesia to ask all parties to anticipate an increase in inflation risk next year.
Terjaga rendah di hampir seluruh daerah dan secara nasional tercatat 1,52% year on year. Sejalan dengan terjaganya ekspektasi inflasi dan stabilitas nilai tukar rupiah, belum kuatnya permintaan serta ketersediaan pasokan, kami perkirakan inflasi pada tahun 2021 dan 2022 akan terjaga dalam kisaran sasaran, yaitu 3% plus minus 1%. Meskipun risiko kenaikan inflasi pada tahun 2022 perlu kita antisipasi.
The Governor of Bank Indonesia estimates that the inflation rate in 2021 to 2022 will be at the level of 1 to 3%. IDX Channel reports.
Stay with us because Market Alliance will be right back after the break. Wilayah kerja minyak dan gas bumi, Rokan, kembali ke pangkuan Ibu Pertiwi. Presiden Joko Widodo kemarin meluncurkan sistem online single submission atau OSS berbasis risiko di Kementerian Investasi. Jadi untuk jadi pengusaha gitu, tapi kalau perizinannya susah, ya nggak jadi. Gitu.
Pelaku usaha lokal juga ini kan merasa didukung ya, dan ketika para pelaku usaha ini bisa tumbuh, ini kan juga bisa mendorong perekonomian pada akhirnya, betul ya?
Biar komitmen itu menjadi realisasi investasi.
Presiden Joko Widodo memiliki optimisme yang tinggi terkait dengan proses vaksinasi nasional yang sedang dilakukan saat ini. Bagaimana tanggapan dari pengusaha dengan angka ini?
Tentu membuat kita harus lebih berhati-hati.
Langkah apa yang tepat dilakukan untuk bisa meningkatkan pemahaman masyarakat?
Komunikasi publik adalah kunci. Jadi kita harus bisa menunjukkan kepada masyarakat bahwa vaksinasi itu penting.
Aku akan tunjukkan ke kalian semua. Aku nggak perlu membalas, tapi you see me, let's see. You see me, let's see. You can see me soon. What I'm doing.
Nah, sejauh ini kritikan terpedas yang pernah diterima apa, Kak?
Kayak gini, aku pernah gini. Narimu jelek, gak bagus. Apa sih? Kamu jadi penari kayak begitu. Aku udah pernah yang kayak gitu.
Biden mengatakan Amerika Serikat akan membagikan setidaknya 20 juta dosis vaksin COVID-19 resmi Amerika Serikat.
Apakah ini lagi-lagi akan menjadi sentimen yang cukup positif atau justru sepertinya bisa jadi tidak sesignifikan sebelumnya?
Menurut saya sih kalau dilihat cerminan pasar beberapa hari terakhir sih nggak ada efeknya ya.
Indeks harga saham gabungan ditutup di level 5.833.860 dan ini merupakan level terendah dalam beberapa bulan terakhir.
Welcome back at the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement. Earlier today, JCI was opened at the level of 6,094.34 and then approaching the closing time of the session. The index was on the level of 6,074.23. Then the index was showing weakening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at the level of 6,078.22. In short, JCI went down 0.21%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement. The dynamics of today's trading, we got transportation and logistics as the leader of the strengthening trend, went up 2.17%, and industry went up 0.71%. Next, we got technology as the leader of the weakening trend, went down 2.27%, and cyclic went down 1.59%. And moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. BDMN went up 8.14% to the level of 2,790 rupiah per share. Real went up 1.77% to the level of 115 rupiah per share. WMUU went up 16.15% to the level of 187 rupiah per share. And Tower went up 1.85% to the level of 1,375 rupiah per share. Meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we got Arto went down 3.1% to the level of 14,050 rupiah per share. And Buka went down 1.12% to the level of 880 rupiah per share. And BVRI went down 0.51% to the level of 3,870. And BABP went down 6.82% to the level of 410 rupiah per share. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. Was opened at the level of 14,285. Rupiah was also showing a weakening trend towards US dollar. Was closed at the level of 14,260. In summary, rupiah went down 0.27%. Unilever Indonesia has absorbed capital expenditures of around 350 billion rupiah in the first semester of 2021. Unilever revealed that most of the capital expenditure funds were used for saving projects and innovations.
Unilever Indonesia has absorbed capital expenditures of around 350 billion rupiah in the first semester of 2021. Unilever Indonesia's Finance Director Arif Hudaya said the company's absorbed capital expenditures until the end of June 2021 reached around 350 billion rupiah or 1.7% of total sales. He revealed that most of the capital expenditure funds were used for saving projects and innovations in continuing to increase brand growth. Not only that, Unilever management said that the company will continue investment programs until the end of the year in accordance with the company's plan, even though economic conditions have not returned to normal. Meanwhile, for information, until June 2021, Unilever posted a decline in net sales of 7.34% to 20.17 trillion rupiah from the previous 21.77 trillion rupiah. IDX Channel reports.
Step aside from market condition as the efforts in achieving herd immunity is still going on. Here it is an update data about COVID-19 vaccinations in Indonesia. And the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. And we can get through this pandemic by staying disciplined on health protocols. Everyone must wear a face mask because it can protect us from COVID-19. Use masks properly and encourage family and people around you to do the same. I'm Wicky Adrian. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Halo pemirsa, kita kembali berjumpa dalam